With new Pokemon games, it's not a question of if, but a question of when, and that's what this video is about. I want to talk about my hopes for the next Pokemon game rumored to be on the Nintendo Switch. Now, for some reason, there's actually a lot of people that don't think that the next main series Pokemon game is going to be on the Switch, because traditionally, Pokemon main series games have been on handheld consoles. Well, the 3DS is getting pretty outdated, and it's near the end of its life cycle, and also the Nintendo Switch is just as much of a handheld as the Nintendo 3DS is. We can also look into some interviews where Game Freak has strongly implied that the next Nintendo console, the Switch, is where future games are going. So we've come this far together with Nintendo with its consoles. I think we'll keep on evolving together with them. I think that's big right there. We will follow the path that Nintendo consoles make in the future. Talking about consoles like the Switch, because the Switch is that handheld. It can go from being a home console to a portable console. It's in the name, and right here it sounds like Game Freak, they're working on that evolution with Nintendo to provide the best Pokemon experiences possible. Now remember, we had Game Boy Advance, we had the Game Boy, that Pokemon can go back to one screen and do just fine, while also having a lot more power that comes with the newest generation of consoles. Also, we can see that yes, Game Freak does agree that it does need to be a social experience. It does need to be something that is on the go. Sugimori stated, "I am interested in strong visual effects. However, I believe that Pokemon is most appropriate for portable consoles." I mean, the Switch is a portable console. Masuda chimes in, "I'm not really thinking about it having the main Pokemon games on the Wii, because using portable consoles means you can carry a Pokemon around with you, and that's why we've only seen Pokemon, or at least main series games, on handheld devices, so the Switch is perfect for what Game Freak has said in the past." Now, I know it might sound a little too early to be discussing hopes for the next Pokemon game, but it honestly never is. That when we look at it, Game Freak, they've uploaded and given us all kinds of information for the next Pokemon game months in advance. So as we can see right here, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire was announced in May of 2014 for its November release, and then it gets even crazier with the Pokemon Sun and Moon teaser, Pokemon Sun and Moon to arrive in late 2016, as we got this news in February, early 2016, and with all the rumors going around with Pokemon Stars or Pokemon Eclipse or whatever game could potentially be in works for the Switch, it seems like it's going to have a summer to winter release. So yeah, this is already something we need to be considering. But why are we considering it right now? Well, that's because Pokemon Sun and Moon, I'm not saying it's a bad game, I'm not saying it's incomplete, it just felt very heavy on the story, and there is a pretty decent amount of stuff to do in the post-game, but there's just not a lot of new Pokemon. That's all of the new Pokemon on screen right there, and you can just kind of breeze through and be like, oh, that's the entirety of the new Pokemon experience. Doesn't really feel that great. And also, unfortunately, we had like the most insane breakout of hacking and cheating possible in Pokemon Sun and Moon. That all of the cheating programs and all the homebrew stuff for Pokemon Sun and Moon, that PK Hex and all the hacking tools were available negative days before the Pokemon launch because of a big leak and all kinds of crazy data mining and piracy and stuff, so it got pretty bad, which means a lot of the content of the game ended up getting sped up. The meta developed way faster than it should have, and also hacking is just way too rampant in Pokemon right now, which is what brings me to my first hope for the Pokemon Sun and Moon on the Switch, that there will not be any hacking. Now, I've been burned on this in the past because I tried to make that prediction. Hopefully, Pokemon Sun and Moon, it'll be a virgin game, that there won't be any hacking, at least until Pokemon Bank, or at least for the first month, but the game was actually cracked before it was even released. So that gave us a lot of problems right there. That I tried to make the prediction, no hacking until the January Pokebank release. Well, that didn't happen, and unfortunately, I don't know if it's going to be the same for the NX as well. That hopefully the Switch will be very hard to homebrew, but unfortunately, another thing that makes the no hacking problem happen is that Pokemon for the Switch is not going to be a launch game. That if it was a launch game, then maybe thered be some hope that we'd be able to play it without having to worry about hacking for a while, as first the homebrew is developed, and then maybe the new game has better encryption and better like hack proofing to where it wouldn't happen, and then there'd be like new methods and stuff that would have to be developed. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like any of that's going to happen, and maybe hacking will be available. But then one of the biggest problems is that you're going to piss off a lot of fans by not making the 7th generation game compatible with the 7th generation game. You'd pretty much have to start Pokemon Stars or Pokemon whatever from scratch to make sure that there isn't going to be any hacking issues, and then there could still be a problem to where Pokemon Stars gets cracked a lot sooner than expected, and then there's still hacking in Pokemon. My hope is that there's just something magical about the Switch, something magical about the encryption in Pokemon Stars that makes it a lot harder to hack, and that we can have a pure non-cheating Pokemon experience, but also Game Freak is kind of showing us that that's probably not going to happen, that all of the legendaries were available in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and all the mythical Pokemon were given away, so all of a sudden, stopping that cold, well, that ends your Pokemon collection, you have to start over with Pokemon Stars, and we had an experience very recently that was meant to bring all the Pokemon together. So it's very unlikely, and it just breaks my heart that there is so much hacking in Pokemon, and that such a massive amount of the Pokemon community cheats. And I really want the Switch to fix that, but with all the things that have happened, it doesn't look like it will. Looking into some other things that I'm hopeful for with Pokemon for the Switch, Pokemon following you. Now, yes, I do know I put Pokemon following you as a feature I don't want in Pokemon Sun and Moon in my top 10 gameplay features video, and I know a lot of people are going to try to peg me as a hypocrite for that, but a lot of things have changed. Not really my idea. I think that following you needs to stay in Heart Gold Soul Silver. It needs to be a part of that experience. However, some things have kind of surfaced that through data mining for Pokemon Sun and Moon, we revealed that there's Pokemon walking and running animations for pretty much every single Pokemon. Now, a lot of people are trying to write this off for the Pokefinder, but the Pokefinder has a very small handful of Pokemon. But one problem with that theory is that these are models of transfer-only Pokemon, that these Pokemon aren't even available. These are also legendaries and very rare and exclusive Pokemon that have both walking and running animations. And also, if we're looking at a game that's going to be a sequel version on the Switch, we have more processing power, which lets us do something like Pokemon following you. And then that also means we have a lot more features that would need to make you want to buy that game over just to continue with Pokemon Sun and Moon. So I feel that there's a lot going for it with the following, and the reason why I want to see it, that there's already stuff there from the data mine. So really, I would just like to see it happen, that we find data mining for Pokemon Sun and Moon that actually gives us a feature in a future Pokemon game. That's pretty cool, even though I'm still not a huge fan of the Pokemon following you, because the experience of Pokemon Heart Gold Soul Silver was just that insane. Next up, I want to figure out what's going on with the empty plots, that every city in Pokemon Sun and Moon has an empty plot. Some of these have Machamp in them that are working around. We have people talking about, hey, we don't know what's going to happen here, but at least something's ready to be built. We can see building materials on some of these sites. Pretty much, it's just a huge mystery in Pokemon Sun and Moon as to what these empty plots are going to be used for, and really the only way we can find out is through future Pokemon games. As to what they're going to be, no one really knows. I was kind of hoping that you get to build like a customizable house or secret base, and then you get to just say, hey, I like this city, I want to live here, and then that's pretty cool. But also, all of these, like some of these sites have already seemed pretty prepared, so there is the chance that these could be gyms or some kind of other feature to be introduced in Pokemon Sun and Moon. So I don't know what I want, I just hope that we find out as soon as possible. So another thing I want are new Pokemon. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, there just weren't enough Pokemon. We had the same for the 6th generation. That we've had other generations of Pokemon, like the 5th generation, introduce over 150 new Pokemon, and then a lot of other generations giving us over 100 as well. But between the 7th and 6th generation, it feels like we're lacking on new Pokemon. And the reason why I want new Pokemon for 7th generation the most is because I loved a lot of the new 7th generation Pokemon. That just feel like we're getting ripped off by not getting more awesome new Pokemon. That a lot of these designs are some of the coolest Pokemon that we've seen so far. So I just want more awesome new Pokemon, and I'm okay if we have it right now because it's still a condensed little pack of cool Pokemon, but getting more new Pokemon, that could just build upon the story, builds upon the competitive aspects, and then could just mean better things all around. And also, I want 2nd generation Alolan Pokemon. When we first heard about Alolan Pokemon, we didn't know if it was going to be Kanto only or not. Then we finally figured out the entire list, and also maybe just more Alolan Pokemon in general. All of the Alolan Pokemon were revealed by the Pokemon Company before the game came out, except for the Geodude evolutionary line. Then when you look at it, there's just not a lot of new Alolan Pokemon. We have 18, and this is supposed to be like a big feature key to the region, so a better way of introducing that would be if there's a climate change, if there's a shift, if we're in the future, then all of a sudden, other region Alolan Pokemon start popping up, and I would love to see a Johto tie-in with Pokemon Sun and Moon. So 2nd generation Alolan Pokemon would be pretty awesome, and making them competitively viable would be nice. I wish that there was actually stats added on instead of stats shuffled around for some of these guys. That a lot of the Pokemon like Raticate, Persian, Sandslash, Exeggutor, their stats were just shifted around, but they didn't become much better because of it. So I'd really like to see some huge buffs to new Alolan Pokemon, and then see some 2nd generation Pokemon come in, get some big tie-ins right there, and then just have this be like an insane Pokemon experience, more Pokemon following you, it being closer to Johto, and then just kind of reliving all of the best Pokemon experiences at once. So those are my hopes right there. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave a like on this video if you made it this far. Please comment down below if you have any hopes as well for the future of the 7th generation, or maybe even the 8th generation, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.